All right, welcome in everyone. Today we are doing a deep dive on Bob Camblin,
Bob Camblin.
a Houston artist who you might not have heard of before.
Yeah.
But we have a really interesting mix of stuff to go through today. So we have like some biography excerpts, we've got art reviews, and we even have a YouTube video
Oh, wow.
that goes into like a whole philosophical analysis on one of his pieces.
Interesting.
It's like we're getting to know Camblin from all these different like viewpoints and angles.
That is fascinating to have all these different perspectives on him.
Yeah.
I'm really eager to see how all this kind of intertwines, his life and his art and then these bigger ideas.
Yeah, me too. So first things first, like who is Bob Camblin? Like I was reading this one art historian who called him one of Boomtown Houston's most committed, talented, and enigmatic artists, a mystical trickster figure. And like just from that description alone, it's like, whoa, what is going on with this guy?
That is a very intriguing way to describe him. What I find interesting is that when you actually look at the details of his life, that mystical trickster element, it really starts to make sense.
Oh, okay. I need to know more about these details. Like,
Yeah.
was he really a distillation of art, like one photographer put it?
Well, those who knew him best, they described someone who was completely immersed in art, and not just creating it, but like seeing life through an artistic lens. It's like he was always pushing boundaries, questioning everything, almost using his life as a canvas.
I like that a lot, but like, how did that then translate into his art? Like,
Yeah.
what kind of work did he actually make?
That's where we get to dive into some of these reviews, especially the ones for Zen and the Art of Enlightenment, Volume 2. So imagine this. Bold, decisive lines, creating these almost mask-like forms, and they're set against these vibrant, almost otherworldly orbs of color.
Wow.
That's kind of the essence of Camblin's visual language.
I'm already trying to picture it in my head.
Yeah.
Did he have any recurring themes that he explored in his work?
Absolutely. And this is where a specific piece of his called Time Being really comes into play.
Okay.
It beautifully encapsulates so many of Camblin's like obsessions,
Yeah.
exploration of time existence, and this really interesting blend of ancient, almost primal imagery
Oh, wow.
with deeply personal symbolism.
It's like he's wrestling with these huge existential questions right there on the canvas.
Yes.
And I bet that's why someone made that whole YouTube video analysis that we have trying to like decipher it all.
That video is such a great example of how Camblin's work provokes deeper thought.
Right.
It's not just about pretty pictures. He wants to engage your mind as much as your eye.
So let's break down this video then. Like, what are some of the key interpretations that jumped out at you?
One of the things that struck me was this tension that the video highlights between simply existing and the constant passage of time. It's like he's forcing you to confront your own mortality.
Right.
But not in a morbid way, more like an invitation to ponder, like, where do you fit in the grand scheme of things?
Yeah.
The video also gets into this idea of the impermanence of identity,
Okay.
even drawing some parallels to Buddhist philosophy, which is super interesting.
Buddhist philosophy. Okay, now I'm really intrigued. How does that connect to Camblin's work?
Well, Buddhism places a lot of emphasis on the idea that everything is in constant flux, that nothing stays the same.
Right.
There's this concept called anicca, which essentially means impermanence, and applies to everything, even ourselves. It's the idea that clinging to this fixed idea of who we are is actually what causes suffering.
So if we let go of this fixed idea of ourselves, then who are we? I have to admit this is kind of a mind bender.
It is, but Camblin's Time Being almost visually embodies this concept.
Okay.
So the face in the painting is fragmented, almost dissolving into the background. And the video suggests that this could represent the impermanence of our own identities.
That's a really powerful image. I'm starting to see how these philosophical ideas actually make the artwork even more compelling.
Exactly. And this is where I think Camblin's art goes beyond just simple aesthetics.
Right.
He's inviting us to engage with these huge questions about time existence and the very nature of reality.
So it's not just about appreciating how the painting looks, but really thinking about what it means about the ideas it's trying to express.
Precisely. He wants to disrupt the way we normally think about time, identity, all these things that we just take for granted. He wants to make us question our own assumptions.
That's a lot to unpack from one painting.
Yeah.
And we haven't even touched on that other review that said that Camblin's art aimed to achieve everyday enlightenment.
Right.
I love that phrase, but what does it even mean?
It's a great question, and it's one that we'll definitely dive deeper into.
Sure.
But I think at its core, it's about finding those moments of insight and beauty in the ordinary, in the everyday.
So it's not about some grand mystical experience,
Right.
but about finding a sense of wonder and meaning in the simple things.
Exactly. And I think that's what makes Camblin's work so relevant to us today. In a world that's constantly rushing, demanding our attention, he's asking us to slow down,
Right.
pay attention, and find meaning in the present moment.
Well said. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's go back to that YouTube video analysis.
Okay.
What else did it highlight about time being?
One of the things I found particularly fascinating was how the video connected the painting to the I Ching.
Hold on, the I Ching. Now we're going from Buddhist philosophy to ancient Chinese texts.
I know.
This deep dive is getting pretty wild.
Right. But it makes sense when you consider how Camblin just wove together so many different influences in his work.
Right.
The video pointed out how the imagery in time being actually resonates with certain hexagrams from the I Ching,
Okay.
specifically hexagram 49, revolution, which speaks to this idea of profound transformation,
Oh, well.
like shedding old structures to embrace something new.
So that fragmented face in the painting could represent this process of metamorphosis.
Exactly.
Like breaking down old patterns and stepping into a new way of being.
Yeah, and the video also connected the painting to hexagram 29,
Right.
the abysmal water, which symbolizes navigating uncertainty and letting go of control.
It's like Camlin is encouraging us to surrender to the flow of life.
Yes.
Even when it feels chaotic and uncertain.
Yeah,
Is this starting to sound a bit familiar?
it is.
Yeah.
Because it circles right back to the Buddhist concept of impermanence and non-attachment.
Right.
Camblin is drawing on these ancient wisdom traditions
Yeah.
to explore these really timeless human questions about change,
Yeah.
identity, and the search for meaning.
This is also fascinating, but my brain is getting a bit full.
And
I think we need to pause here for a moment and let everything sink in.
agreed. We've covered a lot of ground already, from Camblin's biography to his artistic style to these intriguing connections to Buddhist philosophy and the I Ching.
Right.
But there's still so much more to explore.
So in the next part, we'll delve deeper into this idea of everyday enlightenment and what it might look like in our own lives. And we'll also explore how Camlin's art speaks to contemporary issues, encouraging us to reflect on our own roles in shaping a more just and equitable society.
Absolutely.
Stay tuned. Okay, so we're back, and my brain is still buzzing a little from all those connections we made between Camblin's work, Buddhist philosophy, and even the I Ching.
I know, right?
It's incredible how one artist can tap into such deep wells of thought.
It is remarkable. And, it's easy to get lost in that heady world of abstract concepts.
You're right.
But one of the things I find most compelling about Camblin is how he tries to bring those ideas down to earth.
Yeah.
Remember that whole everyday enlightenment thing that the review mentioned?
Absolutely. It's such an intriguing phrase, but I still feel like I'm grasping at what it actually means in practice.
Right.
How do we find enlightenment in doing the dishes or waiting in line at the grocery store?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't
Yeah.
it? But I think it's less about the specific activity and more about the approach we bring to it. The review highlighted how Camblin's art encourages us to see the potential for enlightenment, not in some grand mystical experience,
Right.
but in the ordinary moments of our lives.
Oh, I'm listening. Give me an example. What does that actually look like?
Think about a time you were completely engrossed in something. Maybe you were gardening or cooking or even just listening to music.
Yeah.
And time just seemed to fall away. You were fully present in that moment.
Right.
And there was this sense of peace and joy.
Yeah. I can definitely relate to that feeling.
Right.
Those moments when you're just completely lost in what you're doing.
Exactly. And that's a glimpse of what everyday enlightenment can be. It's about cultivating that same sense of presence and awareness in everything we do, even the mundane tasks.
So it's not about achieving some special state of being,
Right.
but more about shifting our perspective about how we approach each moment.
Precisely. Camblin's art, with its emphasis on impermanence and change, it's constantly reminding us that everything is in flux.
Yeah.
Nothing is permanent. Not our emotions, not our thoughts,
Right.
not even our sense of self.
So instead of clinging to things, instead of getting caught up in the drama of our lives,
Yeah.
we should just try to be present with what is.
Yes. It's about accepting the ever-changing nature of reality and finding beauty in that impermanence. It's about appreciating the simple things, noticing the subtle shifts in light, the way the wind rustles through the leaves.
Right.
It's about finding joy in the journey, even amidst the challenges.
I'm starting to see how this connects back to the Buddhist concept of non-attachment we talked about earlier.
Right. If we can let go of our need to control, to hold on,
Mm.
we can experience a deeper sense of peace and freedom.
Yeah.
And that freedom allows us to see the world with fresh eyes,
Right.
to appreciate the beauty in the ordinary, the sacred in the everyday.
Wow, that's a powerful thought. It's making me think about that quote from the artist who said he would spend evenings reading Camblin's paintings in bed.
Hmm.
It's like Camblin is inviting us to slow down,
Yeah,
to really look and to find our own meaning within his work.
that's a beautiful way to put it. And I think that's one of the reasons why Camblin's art continues to resonate with people today.
Yeah.
It offers a space for reflection, for contemplation, for a deeper connection with ourselves and the world around us.
So we've talked about everyday enlightenment and how it relates to Buddhist philosophy and Camblin's work.
Right.
But there's another layer we haven't touched on yet, the historical and political context of Camblin's time.
You're right. We can't forget that Camblin was creating art during a period of immense change in Houston.
Right.
Remember, it was the city's boomtown era,
Yeah.
a time of rapid growth, economic prosperity, but also social and political upheaval.
Exactly. We're talking about the 60s, 70s, and 80s, the Civil Rights Movement, Vietnam War, the Women's Liberation Movement.
Right.
These were huge cultural shifts happening all around him.
Yeah.
Do you think his art reflects any of that?
Well, Camblin's work wasn't explicitly political in the sense of depicting specific events or figures.
Right.
There's a certain energy, a sense of questioning and challenging the status quo that I think reflects the spirit of those times.
I see what you mean. Like he's visually deconstructing the world around him,
Yes.
encouraging us to look beyond the surface and question the narratives we're being fed.
Yes. And you know, that same spirit of inquiry and critical thinking feels incredibly relevant today
Right.
as we grapple with our own set of complex social and political issues.
Absolutely. Camblin's art, with its focus on impermanence and interconnectedness, it seems to speak directly to the challenges we face in the 21st century.
It reminds us that our understanding of the world is constantly evolving,
Right.
that we need to be open to new perspectives, to challenge the systems that perpetuate inequality,
Yeah.
and to embrace the messy, beautiful complexity of it all.
So how can we apply those insights from Camblin's work to our own lives? How can we live with more intention and awareness in a world that's often chaotic and overwhelming?
I think it starts with cultivating that same spirit of curiosity and critical thinking that Camblin embodied.
Hmm.
It's about questioning the narratives we're presented with, seeking out diverse voices,
Yeah.
and engaging in difficult conversations even when they're uncomfortable.
It's about recognizing that we're all interconnected, that our actions have ripple effects far beyond ourselves.
Yes.
It's about understanding that building a more just and equitable world requires us to be engaged, to be informed, and to use our voices to advocate for change.
Exactly. And, you know, while those tasks might sound daunting, I think Camblin's art offers a sense of hope.
Yeah.
It reminds us that even amidst the chaos, there's beauty and meaning to be found.
Right.
It encourages us to embrace the present moment, to find joy in the journey, and to never stop questioning, exploring, and creating.
Wow, I'm feeling really inspired right now. But before we get too carried away, let's take a step back and recap what we've covered so far. We've explored Camblin's life, his unique artistic style,
Right.
and delved into the philosophical and spiritual dimensions of his work,
Yeah.
particularly the concept of everyday enlightenment and its connections to Buddhist thought. We've also touched on the historical and political context of his time
Right.
and how his art might reflect the spirit of those times.
Exactly.
It's been quite a journey. And as we head into the final part of our deep dive, I'm curious to explore one more aspect of Camblin's work that we haven't fully unpacked yet, his use of symbolism.
Yes. Specifically, those enigmatic orbs that appear throughout his work.
Right, like what do they represent, what secrets do they hold, and how do they tie into the larger themes we've been discussing?
Those are great questions, and I think the answers might just unlock an even deeper understanding of Bob Camblin and his enduring legacy.
Stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll unravel the mysteries of those symbolic orbs and consider the profound impact Camblin's art continues to have on us today. Okay, so we are back for the final part of our Bob Camblin deep dive, and I am ready to tackle those mysterious orbs we keep mentioning. Like, they seem to be popping up everywhere in his work.
They certainly are, and I think they hold a key to understanding some of the deeper layers of Camblin's artistic vision.
Okay, lay it on me. What is the deal with these orbs? What do they symbolize?
Well, there is no, single definitive answer.
Right.
Like much of Camblin's work, the orbs are open to interpretation.
Right.
But if we consider what we've already discussed, like the themes of time impermanence, everyday enlightenment, we can start to piece together some possible meanings.
All right, I'm intrigued. Give me some of those possible meaning.
Remember how that YouTube video analysis cautioned against getting too fixated on moments of clarity?
Yeah.
The video suggested that even those aha moments are fleeting part of the ever-changing flow of experience.
Yeah, it connected back to that idea from Buddhism that attachment even to meaning itself can be a trap.
Exactly. So perhaps the orbs could represent those flashes of insight, those moments when we feel like we've grasped something profound.
Yeah.
But the fact that they're often depicted as swirling, overlapping, or even dissolving suggests that we shouldn't cling too tightly to them.
It's like Camblin is reminding us to embrace the whole journey, the ebb and flow, rather than getting stuck on any one particular point.
Precisely. And remember how we talked about Camblin's work as a form of everyday enlightenment?
Right.
Maybe these orbs also represent the potential for beauty and meaning that exists all around us, even in the mundane or unexpected.
So it's not about seeking some grand transcendent experience, but about noticing those little sparks of wonder in our everyday lives.
Yes, it's like Camblin is saying, pay attention, open your eyes. The extraordinary is hidden within the ordinary, if you know where to look.
I love that idea. It makes me want to go out and look for those orbs in my own life, those little moments of beauty and connection.
Me too.
Yeah.
And one of the things that makes Camblin's work so compelling is that it doesn't provide easy answers.
Right.
He's not trying to tell us what to think or believe, but rather to spark our own curiosity and encourage us to find our own meaning.
He's more of a guide than a lecturer, leading us on this journey of exploration and discovery.
Exactly. And I think that's a powerful approach, especially in a world that's often trying to bombard us with information and tell us what to think.
Right.
Camblin's art offers a space for quiet contemplation, for asking questions, and for finding our own truth.
It's like he's handing us the keys to the car and saying, go explore, see where the road takes you.
And who knows what amazing discoveries we might make along the way.
Well said. I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've explored who Camblin was, the key themes in his art, and how those themes connect to broader philosophical and spiritual ideas. We even touched on the historical context of his time and how his art might reflect those influences.
And through it all, we've encountered this idea of everyday enlightenment, this notion that meaning and beauty can be found not just in grand gestures or extraordinary experiences, but in the simple present moments of our lives.
It's been an incredibly insightful journey, and I have to say I'm feeling quite inspired to go out and experience the world through a bit more of a Camblin lens.
As you should, and perhaps that's the greatest gift Camblin's art has, to offer a renewed sense of wonder, a curiosity about the world, and the invitation to find our own moments of everyday enlightenment wherever they may be.
Beautifully said. So to wrap things up, I want to leave our listeners with one final thought inspired by Camblin's work. What everyday enlightenment might you discover by slowing down, paying attention, and looking more closely at the world around you? Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.